A genius is the man who can do the average thing when everyone else around him is losing his mind. Okay, I absolutely love this Napoleon quote to kick things off, because when we talk about money, true success really isn't about raw intellect. You don't need a massive brain for complex math, you know? It's literally all about steady, average behavior in a world where it is just so incredibly easy to lose your mind.
So, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into the psychology of money. Specifically, we're going to look at some wild lessons from contrasting lives. We'll unpack exactly why your soft skills matter way more than your math skills. And to do that, we're going to look at some staggering real-life contrasts. People who seemingly had every advantage and blew it, right alongside people who started with nothing and built absolute empires.
You know, finance really is the greatest show on earth. It's this massive arena where human behavior, ego, and raw emotion just play out for everyone to see. And to really get a grip on this, we're going to start with the jaw-dropping tale of two completely opposite people navigating this exact world. Their stories reveal a truth about money that, honestly, you're just not going to find in any other industry on the planet.
Okay, let's set the stage. On one side, we have Ronald Read. Born in rural Vermont, hitchhiked to high school, fixed cars at a gas station for 25 years, and swept floors at JCPenney for another 17. Basically, his biggest hobby was chopping firewood. Now, on the absolute flip side, we have Richard Fiscone. He was everything Read wasn't. We're talking a Harvard-educated MBA, wildly successful executive at Merrill Lynch, praised by his CEO for his incredible business savvy, featured in top magazines. I mean, you literally couldn't design two more contrasting resumes if you tried.
But here is where it gets crazy: the outcome. Ronald Read died in 2014 at the age of 92. And when he passed, this humble small-town janitor made international headlines. Why? Because he left behind a net worth of over $8 million. Yeah, $8 million. He left $2 million to his stepkids and $6 million to his local hospital and library. And get this, there was no lottery win, no secret long-lost rich uncle, nothing like that. He just patiently saved whatever little he could, put it in blue-chip stocks, and let those tiny savings compound for decades.
Now contrast that massive success with Richard Fiscone, a Harvard guy retired in his 40s to be a philanthropist, borrowed heavily to expand an 18,000-square-foot mansion in Connecticut, 2 elevators, 7 garages, indoor pool, the whole shebang. Just to maintain this place, it cost him $90,000 a month, 90 grand every month. So when the 2008 financial crisis hit, his heavy debt and illiquid assets just completely wiped him out. He literally stood before a bankruptcy judge with zero income, and his homes were auctioned off in foreclosure.
Which brings us right to the core of this whole thing: the psychology of money. It's a soft skill where how you behave is fundamentally more important than what you know. Just think about it for a second. In what other field does a guy with no degree, no formal training, and zero background massively outperform a Harvard grad with top-tier experience? Like, a janitor is never going to outperform a Harvard-trained heart surgeon in the operating room. No way. But in finance, Ronald Read was patient and Richard Fiscone was greedy. And that one behavioral difference totally eclipsed the massive education gap between them.
This perfectly shows why really smart people often end up going totally broke. Take this one story of a wildly successful tech executive in his 20s. He patented a key Wi-Fi component. Certified genius, right? But his relationship with money was, well, it was childish. He'd actually hand a colleague thousands of dollars to go buy $1,000 gold coins, take them down to the ocean, and literally skip them across the water like rocks, just for fun. And surprise, surprise, not long after, he went completely broke.
So why does this happen? It all comes down to the danger of moving goalposts. A lot of times, successful people will risk what they already have and what they actually need just to chase things they don't need at all. When your expectations rise right along with your results, there's just no logic in striving for more, because you're going to feel the exact same after putting in all that extra effort. Seriously, the absolute hardest financial skill is getting the goalposts to stop moving. Without a solid sense of enough, even people with unimaginable wealth and prestige will end up throwing it all away.
But hey, before we sit here and judge too harshly, we kind of need to anchor ourselves to a simple truth. No one is actually crazy. People from different generations, raised in entirely different economies, they just learn vastly different lessons. Like, someone who grew up during the Great Depression is going to view risk completely differently than some tech worker who was basically swimming in cash during the late 90s dot-com boom. We all make our choices based on our own generation-specific experiences. Your personal experiences make up what, maybe 0.0000001% of what's happened in the world? But they probably make up about 80% of how you think the world works.
Okay, so if no one is crazy, but highly intelligent people are still going broke left and right, what's the actual secret here? Well, good investing isn't necessarily about making brilliant masterstroke decisions. It's really just about consistently not screwing up. At its core, it's about survival.
And this highlights a really crucial difference. There's getting wealthy, and then there's staying wealthy. Getting wealthy requires taking risks, being optimistic, putting yourself out there. But staying wealthy, that requires the exact opposite. You need frugality and, honestly, a healthy dose of paranoia. Just look at legendary 1920s trader Jesse Livermore and real estate mogul Abraham Germansky. Both of these guys were brilliant at getting rich during massive economic booms. But when the market crashed, they lost absolutely everything. Tragically, both ended up taking their own lives. They'd mastered the art of making money, but they completely lacked the financial survival skills to stay wealthy when the tide turned.
Which brings us to one of the most powerful realizations you can have about wealth. Are you ready for this? Savings is simply the gap between your ego and your income. That's it. Lasting success comes from raising your humility, not necessarily your paycheck. And when you look at savings that way, it totally makes sense why people with massive incomes sometimes save so little. It's this exhausting daily struggle against the instinct to, extend your peacock feathers and spend money just to impress other people. This is exactly why the janitor succeeded and the elite executive failed. The people who are best at saving are usually the ones who just don't give a damn what others think about them.
So why bother, right? What is the ultimate point of putting a lid on your ego and saving? Well, psychologist Angus Campbell actually spent years researching what makes people happy, and he found this incredible common denominator. The universal fuel of joy is simply controlling your own life. The absolute highest dividend that money pays isn't a luxury car or a massive house. It's the freedom to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want.
So let's talk about how we actually get that freedom. First off, you gotta save money without a specific purchase goal. You do not need to be saving for a house or a car to justify putting cash away. Just save to save. Next, use that unspent money to gain independence and autonomy bit by bit. And finally, use that autonomy to control your time. Look, a small amount of savings means you can take a few days off when you're sick without absolutely panicking about a missed paycheck. A larger savings means you can wait for the right job offer to come along instead of just grabbing the first one out of sheer desperation.
Now, as we wrap up these behavioral lessons, I want you to keep this in mind. Aiming to be mostly reasonable works way better than trying to be coldly rational. Listen, you are not a spreadsheet. You're a flawed, emotional human being, just like the rest of us. If you try to craft this perfectly rational, mathematically flawed-out financial plan, you're probably going to abandon it the second life gets stressful. A mostly reasonable plan, something you can actually stick with over the long haul, is far, far superior.
So let's do a quick recap on these lessons for financial survival. First, aim to be reasonable, not coldly rational. Second, be nicer and less flashy. Remember, true humility builds wealth a lot better than chrome and horsepower ever will. Third, respect the power of compounding. Just like Ronald Reed sweeping those floors, you got to give your assets years and years to grow without interrupting them. And finally, please define your own enough so you don't end up moving the goalposts right off a cliff.
I want to leave you with a final, kind of provocative question to think about. Take a hard look at your own life and your own habits. Are you managing your money to maximize your spreadsheet returns? Or are you managing it so you can actually sleep well at night? Because as we've seen from these contrasting lives today, mastering the psychology of money isn't about finding the perfect math equation. It's found in your behavior, checking your ego, and finding your peace of mind. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I really hope it helps you find your own enough.